So Gary, do you have guidelines on what to blog and what not to blog, or do you have a voice in this blog?
Well, the name of the blog is GE Reports, and it's meant to be really our own news channel more than anything else. And what we've tried to do is introduce a number of voices, whether it's a researcher in one of our labs or a business leader from our locomotive business or aviation, et cetera. So what we've tried to do is give people a window into GE that they might not otherwise be seeing right now. And then frankly, in the past year and a half, people have forgotten that we're actually in some of these sort of essential industries, and that it's about more than commercial real estate, the company, or our credit default swap. So what we were really trying to do, John, and with all due deference to journalism and journalists, I'm a recovering journalist myself, is that we didn't feel like the company was getting, or our investors, our employees particularly, were getting a full picture of the company. And so this is just a way for us through the written word, through videos, through podcasts, et cetera, to remind people what GE is all about. And as far as the guidelines, there are other blogs inside the company. There are blogs internally that people use inside the company to communicate with one another in communities within GE. And we do have guidelines, both internally and externally. We haven't had one problem that I've seen. The biggest issues that we've had on the blog are some of the external postings that we've gotten. You might imagine there's a little bit of passion on some of the reactions that we get, postings that we get on our blog site. But for the most part, people are coming to our site. They're coming to us from the right sites. They're coming from financial sites. They're getting on our site. They're spending a lot of time there. And the number of posts that we get, or responses that we get, is per story is higher than some places like Gawker or some other high volume sites. So we're very happy with it. We use it sometimes to punch back and to say something that you're seeing out in the public is not true, or we just use it to highlight a technology or a product that we're introducing.
And I think that's one way how public relations is changing, going direct to the consumer instead of going through what is essentially a middleman, the media. Another way I think it's changed is how companies are monitoring the conversation out there. I mean, when Barbara talked about the erroneous Wall Street Journal report, it was interesting to me to hear you say how many people were twittering about this after you communicated it. So are you in fact proactively monitoring the conversation and watching it? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, we use our agencies to help us do that, but I will tell you, my CMO has a tweet deck, and I swear, if I find the person who introduced TweetDeck to him, I have some words. Because, and I think...
I follow your CMO, I might tell you.
So do I.
But you have to.
I think, we follow, but I think it goes back to the idea that the social media tactics are exactly that, they're tactics. And I think it's a really interesting environment that it creates where a Twitter or three could become, for somebody following a TweetDeck, for instance, the conversation. And so, whereas, strategically, we view the social media outlets as the two-way street, and really we listen a lot so that we can even identify issues and reputational threats before they come to us. Because it might start as one Twitter or two Twitters or three Twitters or a mention to a sales rep, and then all of a sudden it begins to snowball. And what this enables us to do, the monitoring of it, enables us to keep close tabs on how big a specific issue will get. So it's very important that we monitor it, but almost, and I don't want to say at arm's length, but just understand what you see as you monitor social media. That's really important.
Thank you. I want to switch gears a little bit here before we open it up and just ask this question. And it really, I was inspired to ask the question because of what Ray said initially. When he joined Pfizer, there were 4 layers between his position and the CEO, and now there's only one. And I wondered how, the relationship between the communications counselor and the CEO has changed during this perceived crisis, not only in the economy, but also in industry-specific ways. So, Michael, you want to talk about that?
Sure, thanks. I can't say it's changed in terms of the amount of counsel being sought, or the amount of counsel I'm trying to provide, at least.
Although you've had a different transition because you went from being a public company to one owned by private equity.
Absolutely.
And private equity is notoriously quiet.
Notoriously quiet.
Yeah.
A little less quiet than we thought when we went in. Give us a little, the handcuffs aren't as severe as we may have thought. But at the same time, we've shifted the type of counsel we're providing to our chairman and CEO to one of, being the voice of the employee, being the voice of the customer in many ways, and with some additional frequency. I think in this role you're always going to serve in that role, but there's a sense of keep me abreast. What's happening? Be anticipatory. What are we seeing that may lead to some issues a week out, 5 weeks out, 5 months out, and give me an independent read on that. Is it any different than what we were doing perhaps beforehand? Probably not. And at the same time, I think our CEO, who's also new to Bausch & Lomb, is looking for some institutional knowledge. The problem being is there's very little of it left. I've been there 2 years, so I preceded him by a year, which doesn't allow me to pull back that far. So that's a little bit of a look at where we've been there. One thing, though, too, to close with this, as much as our counsel hasn't changed, it's because of another reality. You can't control the global economy. And we continue to say that to our workforce, to our customers. There are almost so many things we can control. So a lot of our counsel continues to be, let's keep our eye on the ball on what we can do about our business. And let's speak to that. Let's keep the message on that and not speaking about the economy. We're not a company of economists, nor should we try to be.
Carl, what relationship do you have directly with the CEO of Viacom?
Well, I've known him I have actually the benefit of knowing him for probably 15 years. So, and the chairman of Viacom and of CBS Summer Redstone for the same amount of time. So, not that it makes it any easier sometimes.
You've lasted 15 years under Redstone?
Yes.
God bless you.
And he is, I hope. There must be something for this. I don't know, somewhere. But I think the difference, look, another CEO once told me that when I walked into his office one time, he said, I hate seeing you, which is really nice, when you go into your CEO. And I said, well, what did I do? And he said, it's bad news. It's always bad news whenever you walk in my office. And for all of us, that is the reality sometimes of our jobs is, the balance is usually 70% bad news, 30% raise your hand and say something great happened, and that's nice. But the fact is, when the stuff hits the fan, that's when we get the most amount of face time. And that's the relationship that you have with someone who's a CEO. And you need to be able to have a conversation about the larger, and what was said earlier is exactly right. You need to separate what's going on around you and deal with what you can, and your counsel has to be about what we can manage, what we can impact, and not so much, the sky's falling around us, but if we stick to what we can and refine the messages and always worry about credibility, always, because no ding in your reputation is worse than losing credibility, because that doesn't allow you to recover. Once you lose credibility, once you allow your CEO to go out and say something or do something that damages his credibility and the company's credibility, it's very hard to return.